Hey, what's up? This is JM, host of the Celebrity Grill podcast on iTunes, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Network. All barbecue and grilling, all the time.
From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intention?
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
But listen, Lavernius, shake a face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
You could use it to fight off creeping marauders looking to take your steaks off your grills.
I just like being anywhere with Junior, Senior, and Diva.
Sounds like a whole other type of movie.
Wow. Yeah, really. Keep it hot, keep it clean, keep it lubricated.
We have top men working on it right now. Ooh, top men.
All right, we're rocking and rolling in the second hour here, folks. It's the After Dark segment. Melissa Cookston from Yazoo's Delta Q going to be joining me here in just a few minutes. Question coming in from John, Palm Harbor, Florida. Greg, do you know of a digital thermometer that has an iPhone app that will tell you what your temps are? Probably not a digital thermometer by itself, like a Polder or a Maverick ET73. I don't think there's something out there that has a iPhone app. But if I'm not mistaken, and I'll have to double check this with the guy that I'm thinking about, but there's a guy just south in my neck of the woods. No! Sorry about that, John. There's a guy in my neck of the woods, about an hour or two south of me, that is a huge tech geek and a fan of the show. That would be Barbecue Buzz. And I believe he has a CyberQ from the good folks over at the Barbecue Guru, 800-288-GURU. And I believe he has the ability to hook that unit up to his iPhone and be able to control his temperature in his house or from the grocery store, whatever the case may be. I could be completely wrong on that, but for some reason, I remember seeing some type of application. I know he does have a Guru unit, so I will double-check into that, John, and I will let you know about that because, you know what, that's just the kind of goddamn guy I am, buddy. So thanks for writing into the show. Thanks for listening, more importantly, and I will get back to you as soon as I hear back from Buzz on that. I mean, why not? What's better than Buzz? Nothing's better than Buzz. Buzz likes to get a little buzz. All right, so let's go ahead and race, or let me tell you, we're going to be joined now by a current world champion when it comes to barbecue. She was the runner-up on Barbecue Pitmasters Season 2. She was just competing last weekend at a special duel competition put on there by Mike Mills over at 17th Street Barbecue. She'll also be competing this weekend. Lots of great stuff to talk to Pitmaster of Yazoo's Delta Q and friend of the show, Melissa Cookston. Melissa, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, Melissa. Thanks for asking. So lots of different things that we can talk about tonight in terms of barbecue, outdoor live fire grilling, television for that matter. But first things first, you were competing this past weekend over in Murphysboro, Illinois for that special dual event, much kind of like the one out there in Washington, D.C., where they pit both KCBS one day, MBN the next day. And you guys took place in the MBN and won it. No surprise to me, of course. But how did the whole event go for you? What's the condition like out there? And for the people that haven't been to a dual event, kind of set it up for us visually and how that whole thing runs.
Yeah, in Murphysboro, it was actually all done in the same day.
Oh, wow.
So we only had 10 minutes between blind turn-ins if we chose to do both the Kansas City and the MBN. So we opted just to do the Memphis style simply because I didn't want to get behind on anything since we're a two-person team. You know, it makes it difficult and, be late because once you get behind on something like that, you're behind the rest of the day.
Were there a lot of teams that decided to take part in both of them? And 10-minute turn-ins just seems absolutely outrageous.
Actually, there were, I think, 56 teams, and only 7 teams participated in both.
So the odds are, if you decided to do that, the odds of winning were pretty good. But if you wanted to go, one or the other side, you were pretty much shooting yourself in the foot the minute you got behind.
Exactly. And we just didn't want to take that chance. We're kind of in a points chase right now for Team of the Year, so we decided to stick with the MBN. And our next door neighbors, QAL, decided just to do the Kansas City portion. So since we weren't competing, we got to visit a lot more.
Those Mike Wozniak and Beth, certainly great people out there, doing very well. They've regained top spot of the Team of the Year standings, and seems like it could possibly come back down to the last contest as it did last year. But as you look, and it's kind of unique to be, your MBN and your neighbors with somebody that's KCBS, and obviously you have a lot of time where you're focusing on your specific task at hand, but as you are able to kind of look over the fence a little bit and you see what he's doing, they see what you're doing, is it kind of a good learning experience and trading notes kind of a thing, or are you guys pretty much keeping to yourself during the competition?
Well, from 9 o'clock in the morning, when we first start thinking about breaking down the hog for our blind box, we're pretty much assholes and elbows for the rest of the day. So I really didn't get to look over there much. But Mike was kind enough to bring us some samples, and I believe Pete handed him some out the back of the kitchen tent while I was doing presentation. So we didn't get to visit a whole lot while we were doing our presentation for the Memphis part or anything. But, the night before and after, certainly. But I just want you to know that Mike almost blew the karma and the mojo.
Do I even want to know about it?
Well, let me tell you. He didn't get a call in chicken or in pork.
Oh.
So I'm, all anxious. And, of course, they already called out the MBN stuff. And Pete hollers out, Mike, you're not holding Beth's hand. You're not holding Beth's hand. And so immediately I had to grab his hand and put the mojo in there.
Right.
And he got 2 calls in the last 2 categories and slid right in with the grand, but he had me worried.
Yeah, I think for the people that don't know, Melissa and Mike are a few of the teams that actually fly the Barbecue Central radio show banner, and it's kind of like that unspoken word and that power given out that, you hang those signs, and that instead of having to ask for the karma every week, or depending on how many competitions you do, you hang that banner up, and it's pretty much guaranteed, it's a lock that it's going to work, and certainly it's held true. You win the MBN side, Mike wins KCBS side, things couldn't be better.
I know, and I'm so sorry you're out of banners.
I know. Well, what can I tell you? So it's just one of those things. The guys that have them now, they know the power that they yield and wield. So we need to be careful
Dangerous
with that.
Stuff.
Dangerous stuff. So were you a triple entry this past week, or did you just do hog?
We did whole hog, shoulder, and ribs. And we won it with ribs.
Won it with ribs. I was going to say, what percentage of the time, and I'm sure you have at least some type of percentage when you're in there, is it usually the whole hog that wins it for you guys when you win overall grand champ, or has it kind of floated in between the various 3 categories?
Well, at different times of the year, we'll get on a streak. Charlotte, North Carolina, we won the shoulder. Typically, shoulder's not where we come in. We'll either win it with a hog or a rib. And we get on streaks with ribs, and then we'll go back to the hog. I do love fall hogs. There's something about these hogs that we get in the fall that are they're absolutely wonderful. So I look to go on a hog streak if we can. If we could possibly get through there and win anymore, I would say my prediction would be hog is on a streak next. But we've been winning with ribs.
Yeah, are ribs the spares, or you do baby backs? We do
loin backs.
Any particular reason? Have you had not success with the spares and gone to loin backs?
In Memphis style, if you cook a spare, you will probably come in somewhere in the bottom 5.
Wow.
Yeah, typically Memphis style is all loin backs. Now, when we cook Kansas City, we do St. Louis cut, but for the Memphis side, we strictly stick to loins.
Now, you'd mentioned that you're in a middle of a points chase. You're currently top the leaderboard there for Memphis Barbecue Network Team of the Year, but there is obviously 2 big competitions coming up this weekend. You have the American Royal Invitational and Open, but to keep that points chase alive, you're going to go ahead and pass that one up, go down to Covington, Tennessee to an MBN network competition. Tell us about that particular one, why you chose to go there.
Well, that's where Pete's originally from, and that's where he cooked his first contest 22 years ago.
Wow.
So that's his home contest. The organizer there is the absolute nicest lady in the world. There's nothing she wouldn't do for the teams. And, we like to go to those contests where the people are so friendly and they want you there. When we got invitations to the Royal and the Jack, I kind of figured we wouldn't do both. We chose the Jack, so we're going to stick with MBN until, nobody, hopefully we'll get to where nobody can catch us for the Team of the Year. And, we won't have to chase it all the way to the end like the Kansas City guys will.
Melissa Cookston joining us here, pitmaster of Yazoo's Delta Q. Melissa, when you get the invitation for both, how do you decide which one that you're going to go to? Is it because the Jack has all that mystique and all the history behind it? Or was this the fact that the American Royal was just too close to where Covington, Tennessee was and you wanted to cook that regardless?
Well, the Jack actually sent me an invitation and the Royal forgot me.
Oh.
So someone inquired on my behalf. I said I didn't get my invitation, and they said, "Oh, we're so sorry, but when somebody takes the time to put a postmark on something and put it in my name and send it to me, I kind of lean toward those people."
There you go, right? Plus, it seems from all the people I've talked to that to get into the Jack, just the whole drawing process, then there's that whole history and mystique behind it. Are you even looking at that right now? Is that even on the radar, or are you still a couple weeks off from really starting a game plan for that?
Yeah, I've heard stories about the Jack. I've never been myself. About there's a lot of celebrity judges, and the Jack is very prestigious to go to. So we feel like we're in a little bit over our heads simply because we hadn't cooked much Kansas City this year. We've been strictly Memphis for the most part. And, with celebrity judges, you never know what's going to happen. I know they do have some great certified judges, but, you always hear the scuttlebutt on the circuit. So, we're just going to go with what we normally do for Kansas City and hope, that we can at least get a call or two in there. But we're not looking for much. We're just going, for the camaraderie and the prestige of being at that contest.
How is your white meat doing this year? Because you have to turn in white meat down there.
Yeah, I'm freaking out about that blind box. Those of you who don't know me, I'm OCD, and trying to stuff all that chicken in that box is giving me nightmares. So I hadn't really got a game plan for the whole chicken thing yet.
Having seen the list of other people out there, do you have a particular favorite or a particular team that you think might have the best shot at pulling off a win this year?
I would probably split it between QAL and Pellet Envy. I think both of those guys have a great shot of winning that. I think both of those guys are I think they're going to be running it down. For Team of the Year too. I wish them both luck, and I'm glad I'm not in there with them.
Yeah,
I'm scared of them.
Definitely two names that I've heard thrown around more than a small handful of times as potential Jack winners. So let's go ahead and kind of back it up a little bit for people that might be new to the show or haven't gone back and done the due diligence for the archives. What's the history of Yazoo's Delta Q? Where does the name come up, and where do we lead up to present day?
My husband was cooking when we got married, and he introduced me to competition barbecue, which I immediately fell in love with because I'm too old to play basketball and I don't like golf. So, I immediately jumped in, and, we cook. We're just a husband and wife team. We cook all three categories. Yazoo's Delta Q comes from the Mississippi Delta region. There's a Yazoo City, Yazoo River, and that's kind of what I wanted our barbecue to emanate, was the Mississippi Delta. And, the name Yazoo's is easy to remember. Most people don't pronounce it correctly, but that's okay. But, we're always last on the list, and that's okay, too. I like the name. It's catchy, and, it's who we are now. Nobody knows Melissa, but they know there's Yazoo's, so I'm good with that.
That's right. And by the way, if you want to check out that freshly revamped website, it's yazoosdeltaq.com, and it's really taken on, from what I first ran across it to what it is now. It's been a substantial upgrade.
Oh, yes, and thank you to my great friend, Lori Dixon, who absolutely made that website beautiful from what my husband and I could do with our limited knowledge of computers. We created the first one, which I don't know if I could say created would be the right word, but she took it and absolutely revamped it. She knows I'm addicted to all things flames, so she put plenty of flames on there for me, including a couple of explosions, which were a big surprise, but love nonetheless. So thanks, Lori, for the website.
Now, for the people that aren't as familiar with the MBN style of cooking, it's a little bit different. You have the 3 categories, all pork. And then, of course, the judging that we've talked about in the past is completely different than some of the other sanctioning bodies out there. So give us a little up to speed on what MBN is all about and how their competitions are run.
Sure. We cook whole hog, shoulder, and ribs are our 3 main categories. We have blind judging, which starts before on-site judging. And then we have 1 judge at a time come on site. You have 3 judges in each category. They take the top 3 teams from each category with blind and on-site judges' scores and determine the top 3, and a set of 4 finals judges go around to the 9 finalists. You have the top 3 in hog, the top 3 in shoulder, and the top 3 in ribs. And those 4 judges deem the best of the best that day, and that's who's crowned grand champion.
And what kind of a turnout are you usually getting for contests? Is it similar along any type of sanctioning body where some contests are just going to pull more teams in or not, or do you see kind of a standard number showing up at your competitions that you show up to?
You know, like Covington is the world's oldest contest. I mean, they have local teams that cook that contest every single year. And, you know, they'll get 30, 35 teams. Murphysboro, Illinois, where we were last weekend, is the same way. Charlotte, they had 25 teams or so. But, you know, you get in some of these smaller towns where they haven't really been exposed to competition barbecue, and the local teams aren't coming out and competing as much. You know, you might only have 10 or 15 teams. So, you know, somewhere between 15 and 35 usually.
Melissa Cookston of Yazoo's Delta Q joining us here on the show. Melissa, have you seen kind of a tail-off in teams showing up here over the last 16, 17 months just because of the economic influence it's had on the sport?
You know, I really thought I would, but not so much. I mean, I think that people are maybe cooking less categories, or they're being a little more choosy about which contests they go to. But there's a lot of new teams cooking the Memphis style now. So really, I think our numbers have remained about the same. I know we've grown substantially the number of contests that we have every year. So, you know, that always helps too. Anytime, you know, you can grow like that, you bring in new teams. And fortunately, we've been doing some barbecue schools with some new teams that, you know, that we hadn't had in the past. We've, you know, had 10 or 12 teams come to barbecue school. So we're really excited about that, excited for them to get on the circuit and see what they can do.
Now, there's almost a limitless supply of things that you can cook on these days. What does Yazoo's Delta Q prefer as their cooker of choice?
We have 4 backwoods smokers, ranging from a little bitty chubby up to a hog cooker. And that's all we use. We're strictly backwoods team.
Anything in particular that the backwoods drew you to versus some of the other similar cabinet-type smokers?
Well, they're double wall insulated, so I'm not getting any younger. I need a little more sleep at night because we fought barrel grills for years. And, you know, with the double wall insulation, you maintain heat so much better. You know, if we open the door, we recapture that heat in 3 to 4 minutes as opposed to 30 or 40 minutes, and you're not fighting those huge temperature fluctuations. So that's what I like about them the most. And
one of the things that you had just mentioned here a couple minutes ago was the classes. And it seems, you know, regardless of who you're talking to, that there has certainly been a proliferation of cooking classes, people that are winning or putting classes on. So what I've heard, and one of the people that was actually on the television show when I had her on, Danielle Demoski of DivaQ, was talking about, you know, she didn't really know for these classes that are being put on that are kind of deemed as tell-all classes or we show everything. She wasn't necessarily believing that everybody was showing all of their cards. So how do you structure your class? Is it this is what we do and we're sharing everything, or do you hold some stuff back to remain that competitive edge? Because I wouldn't share anything if I was putting on a class.
Yeah, we do share all, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm not going to take somebody's money and not tell them what I'm doing. With that being said, I can give a recipe to 40 people, and they can cook that same recipe, and you're going to have 40 different sauces. You know, we do what we do, and we've been doing it for lots of years. So, you know, I'm not afraid to say, hey, here's my recipe for sauce. Please try it. Please use it. Or showing them, look, this is how we skin a hog. We really don't have any big secrets. The key to success is all about being consistent. And, you have to cook the same rib this week that you won with last week. And you have to be able to replicate that week after week after week. And the only way to do that is to cook every week. When we first started doing classes, I was concerned, about, we're going to teach all these people what we do, and then they're going to beat us, and, then we have no way to make money. But I wouldn't feel good about taking people's money and not showing them what we do. And, I'm not saying, I've never said, look, this is what you have to do. I tell people, this is what we do. Feel free to use it, but do what works best for you. This is just what works for us.
Do you think that there will be a point, or that there is a point now where the teams are taking these classes and they want to kind of, I don't want to say skip ahead, but they definitely want to get ahead of the learning curve. So instead of taking the base of knowledge that you have given them, or whoever class that they've taken has given them, and making it their own in some form or fashion, they just use whatever they've just been taught and turn right around to the next competition and use it, kind of leading to a non-original flavor profile for a certain amount of teams. Do you think that you're either in the midst of something like that right now in competition barbecue, or is there a potential of that happening?
Yeah, I tell people, you got to know how to cook. You can't come watch me cook and think you know how to cook. You have to learn how to cook on your cooker. I'm sure Baskin-Robbins has 52 flavors for a reason. And, your flavor profile that you like may not be what I serve. And I'm not saying that I necessarily use in competition the flavor profile that I like. I use in competition what I hope that the general Joe Q public of judges will like. And, I show that to them. I let them taste that. I make it with them. And they can open up a bottle of my sauce and taste it, this versus this. It comes down to you have to know how to cook. And these teams, there's several teams in the Memphis circuit right now that are all cooking together, and they're all sharing secrets. But the thing is, they're watering their product down because there's 4 or 5 teams cooking the same product. So, I really try to explain to people, learn how to cook on your cooker, and learn a flavor profile that works for you.
We're talking with Melissa Cookston. Melissa, I'm glad you mentioned that, because you said, you're hoping that you're turning in something that the judges are going to like. When you travel the country as much as you do, when you do the amount of competitions that you do, let's say you come down to the end of the year, as you look ahead to the following, or to the next year, do you look at the ones where you did really well and say, obviously, the flavor profile that we're using is hitting really here, and we want to retarget these? Or do you just spread it around, and if you get the results at a certain place, that's good, and if you don't, that's just the way the cards fall?
Well, Greg, it's really odd. We have actually been doing better the further we travel. And I think that may be that there's such a concentration of barbecue teams where we are that the judges are tired of seeing us. I don't know. But we seem to do better the further we go. So we did introduce a vinegar sauce this year for the first time, and it did really well in the Carolinas, and it's done really well in Georgia. And, those are the kind of things. I'll always travel. It doesn't matter. And if I get beat at a contest, I'm more likely to go back to that contest just to prove a point, or to get my butt beat again. Either one, I don't care. But I'm very competitive. And I really like traveling because I get to meet new people. I get to meet new teams. The people may not have been exposed to Memphis barbecue. Like Charlotte, North Carolina, they seemed starved to death for Memphis-style barbecue. People were coming by and asking questions, and they were so interested in what we were doing, and that's very refreshing.
How hard is it to do this whole hog? A lot of people seem to think that it's like this mythical creature, and there's a very select few people that actually know how to really master the cooking of it. So when you're doing it in a school, is it something that once you get down and you learn the process, it's just practice, 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 or is it actually more involved?
It's really about practice, just cooking them. And once you learn, you got to protect the loin. There are a few little secrets that you have to learn to do with cooking a whole hog. Once you figure those out, a whole hog is easy. People think it is the hardest thing, but it's intimidating. It's just like on-site presentation for some people. It's intimidating. And once you get over that fear of intimidation, it's really easy to cook. which I say that, but I cook a lot of whole hogs, and I'm used to it. You know, it maybe like a brisket was for me in the beginning. It was a worthless piece of meat, you know, until I found burnt-ends and fell in love. But whole hog is not hard to cook.
One of the other
perfect whole hog is hard to cook.
Right. How many perfect whole hogs have you cooked?
Well, I've had Fred, and once you've had Fred, he was in Cleveland, Mississippi last year, and he was the spot-on best whole hog. And I say that because 2 hours after finals is when I got around to breaking that hog down, and it was perfect even then.
Wow.
So, you know, I've had perfect whole hogs that were perfect during preliminaries, but not so much during finals. Or, you know, I slid right in preliminaries, made it through to finals, and it was perfect during the finals. So, you know, it's kind of like a bell curve. When a whole hog it's almost done, it's done, it'll hang out a while, you know, and then it's overdone. I would say in 13 years, we've probably had 10 or 15 perfect whole hogs all the way through. But there will never, ever be another Fred.
Well, when you're naming the hog, I mean, that's something altogether special, right?
Oh, yeah. There's the naming of the hog goes on Friday morning, and I do all the naming of the hogs. And there's really nothing special to it. I just look him in the face and see what he looks like, and I name him.
Does it ever not look like a pig?
No, it always looks like a pig.
That's right.
I've never named one Greg, though.
Hey, I was just gonna. Yeah, I didn't want to ask just in case, but you know.
Yeah, I've never named one Greg.
All right. Well,
or Myron.
The streak.
I've never named a pig Myron.
We're 2 for 2. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other things that teams seem to be getting into, and I would imagine it has to be kind of a certain educated leap for you guys, is the whole rub and sauce business. When you use what you use and you make it in your kitchen and you bring it to the competitions, that's one thing, and people start to see you win with it, and I'm sure the questions start to ask, well, when aren't you going to bring that to market, or where can I buy that, or when are you going to start selling it? Where was the jump-off point for you and Pete to decide that what you guys are using is something that is worthwhile selling and not feeling like you were letting some type of secret out of the bag?
After we won Memphis MA, people were really asking, you know, where can I buy your sauce? Where can I buy your rub? And even other teams, you know, were like, hey, can I buy some of your rub? And so we took the leap then because, you know, I've always made competition sauce in 2-gallon batches. I've always made a one recipe of rub. And, you know, when we decided to bottle, the bottler said, okay, here's what we want to do. We want to bring you down, and we want you to make the recipe with us the first time. Which I was excited about because most guys are saying, oh, just send us a sample and
right.
we'll match it. And I didn't like that because they're going to use the cheapest stuff they can use to make it try to taste the same.
Right.
So we went down, and 100-gallon batch is what we made. And, you know, of course, you can't just multiply your ingredients, you know, times 50
right.
to get 100. And it was, by the end of the day, my taste buds were fried. I was just praying that what we had put in this bottle was going to taste something similar. You know, because I couldn't taste anymore. And we let it sit on the shelf for a week and cracked the bottle open, and it was actually better than my competition sauce, so I adjusted my competition sauce to my bottle sauce. How about that?
I've never heard, like, a great story of, you know, the bottler where people have just sent off a sample, and there always seems to be some type of revision after revision after revision before it finally happens. But it sounds like this was something that happened right off the bat for you guys, probably because you took the time and they wanted you to come down to see how you were making it.
Exactly. And, you know, I would suggest if you can do that with your bottler, please do, because, you know, that way, you know, you're on the same page. He has the recipe down to the granule of you know, garlic powder that's in the rub. So it made it a lot easier, and the bottles are more consistent. You know, from each shipment that I get, I'll crack a bottle, and, you know, I keep a few cases from the first batch that we did, so I'll have a sample to go by, and they taste exactly the same. So we've had great success with that.
And this is all available for sale on the website?
Yes, sir.
And that's yazoosdeltaq.com if you want to stop by and grab yourself up some.
Better be wearing your Big Girl Panties T-shirts on there, too.
You know, I was just going to say, when we started talking about the show here in just a second, the Big Girl Panties T-shirts are also widely available for sale right there. Where does the saying come from?
I don't know. I said it during a Kansas City contest one time. One of the reps said something to me, and I said something about, because we were fairly new to Kansas City, and I told him, I said, well, I got my big girl panties on, I'm ready, or something like that. And he thought that was the funniest thing. And then when we were filming for Pitmasters, they kind of want you to be arrogant, and that's not really my style because I think that's bad juju. But, I thought, well, if I say something funny, it'll take away from the fact that, I'm trying to be cocky and arrogant here because it's not my deal. And it just popped out of my mouth.
And now it's
T-shirts. If you're going to compete against me, you better be wearing your big girl panties.
How are the T-shirts selling?
Oh, well, right now I'm out of smalls and mediums and 2Xs, imagine that. And I have those on order, but I got plenty of larges and plenty of extra larges, and I should have those other sizes in by the end of the week. So.
Yeah, evidently, the traditional barbecue cooker can't get away with an XL, and so I've been yelled at.
Oh, my.
Yeah, you need 4 and 5XL from what I've been told. So, and they cost more.
They do cost more.
Man, I don't understand. If people want 5XL, I'm like, man, you're costing me $4 or $5 extra a shirt. Oh, well, what are you going to do?
You're exactly right.
That's right.
And I didn't know about this T-shirt thing until we had these printed, You can buy T-shirts for like $3 or $4 a piece, but once you wash them, they don't resemble T-shirts anymore.
Yeah,
so
they're very good.
I opted not to get those.
You got to have that nice quality T-shirt, and then it'll be around at least for a good year or two out of good wear.
I know, and then they cost you those $4 or $5 more.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's the cost of doing business, but that's the way you got to get the word out, especially if you want the big girl panty T-shirt. So, again, the website Yazoo's Delta Q. We're talking with Melissa Cookston. All right, Melissa. So let's go ahead and get into the TV show portion of the interview. I would imagine, as I've asked a number of the other people I've had on talking about the show, you were probably a fan of season 1 to some degree, seeing how it transpired and how it all went down through that way and through that format. So when they asked for videos of season 2 for potential applicants, what kind of a video did you put together, and when did you find out that they were going to kind of go away from that original format?
I really did not watch much of season 1. I'll be honest. I'm bad. I did like the format of season 1 simply because it showed what we do. And if Ice Road Truckers or Swamp People, if those shows are interesting, then what we do in Competition Barbecue is interesting. There's enough drama there, trust me. That's why I have T-shirts that say "Shut Up and Cook."
Right.
So when I found out about the format change, I was like, okay, well, it's still bringing barbecue to TV, good, bad, or indifferent. And that can't be an all bad thing. And then, we did not know about the pit fire challenge and somebody getting thrown off until we got there. And, I didn't know so much about that because I can tell you, if I'd gotten thrown off on rattlesnake, there's been some Mississippi whoop-ass coming out somewhere. It was common, So, I don't know. Anything that brings barbecue to TV, I'm okay with. Whatever they have to do for ratings or I look at it this way. Is season 2 better than no barbecue pitmasters at all? Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. It's not for me to question. But all these people who are haters, which I'm not saying if I am one or not, but, they're watching the show. The ratings are almost double what they were season 1.
Right.
So, it is what it is. And, barbecue's on TV, and that's the most important thing to me.
If you would have known that there were going to be these pit fire challenges that could potentially eliminate you prior to even, your ending being judged, would you have reconsidered, or would you have potentially reconsidered, or do you think you just would have won anyway? I'd
have just gone anyway. I'm very competitive, and, if I get thrown off, I get thrown off, but I've gone anyway. You have to. $100,000 is a lot of money. And there's only 20 people there. And if you look at it, you only have to you got to beat 3 people on the first show and 4 people on the second show. So you got to beat 7 people to win $100,000.
Pretty good odds.
Yeah, and I don't have like a real job, $100,000 is a lot of money. That would, support my barbecue addiction for at least 3 or 4 months.
Right. Easily 3 or 4 months.
Easily.
Right. Now, when you got onto the set and, everything was explained to you, you kind of survey who you're going to be going up against. Was there anybody that caught your eye as a potential threat right off the bat? Or do you not even really consider that when you roll in? You're just worried about what you're going to do, and whoever they were putting up against you didn't matter?
Yeah, I really like to concentrate on what I'm doing and not worry so much about what everybody else is doing. Because I can't control what everybody else is doing, and there's no sense in worrying about it. So I really focus on what we're doing and, being the best that we can be, turning in the best products that we can turn in. And I think that game plan works best for me, especially since I'm a little meticulous and OCD. I'm easily sidetracked if I get to worrying about other things. So, yeah, we just do what we do.
And your traditional barbecue meat was the crown roast of pork, I believe, right?
Basically a bone-in pork chop, yeah.
Right. Now, do you have a lot of experience cooking that, and did you really feel like that was a traditional type of meat to cook?
Yeah, I mean, you wonder, they've got 5 different preliminary rounds, if you will. They've got to come out with something, that's a little unique or whatnot. I was glad, really, that it was something that wasn't so traditional because it kind of put us all on the same page of, I don't think any of us are, real adept at cooking this. So my main concern was getting through the rattlesnake.
I was going to say, when they pick that rattlesnake out and show it to you, are you immediately going, is this something I'm going to have to fry? Or, what's the first thing that jumps into your head when you see this in regards to culinary preparation?
Well, I just want you to know that in 4 days of filming, I said one cuss word, which took a lot of work on my part. And they bring this rattlesnake out of this basket, and the first thing I say is, oh, shit. Okay? That's the only cuss word I said in 4 days. They showed it in the first 5 seconds of my episode. How does that work?
They got to get the titillating bits.
I couldn't believe it. I refrained so well.
See, that's why the cameras are rolling, so they can get the points where you drop guard just for 1 second.
Well, we knew it was going to be something crazy, and we tried to prepare before we went, but I'm old and I can't remember stuff anymore. So any of the preparation that we did before we went was pretty much out the window somewhere in the Mojave Desert. I couldn't remember anything we went over, so we just kind of shot from the hip. That's kind of what we do anyway, and hope for the best, really.
Were you, or have you had rattlesnake in the past?
Shoot, no.
No.
Who has, really, And the thing about it is they give us these snakes, and these are skinny snakes. Mine were. They were little bitty skinny snakes. There's no meat on these snakes. So, my thing is I'm sitting here telling Pete under my breath, we got to take this off the bone. He's like, how are we going to do that? I'm like, I don't know. We got to get it off the bone because the only thing I could vision was Warren Sapp holding up a piece of snake and trying to gnaw the meat off with his front teeth. And I'm like, no, that can't work. So, but there's no meat to take off the bone, so it was difficult.
So you make it through that portion of the challenge, and you're able to continue cooking the pork, and you end up winning, the pork portion of it, but were you worried at all with the pork? Was it going along just as you had planned and hoped for? What were the final summations of that initial round of cooking?
I staggered a couple of the pork roasts 30 minutes later. So, I knew that one would come in right on time. And here's the crazy thing. They gave us something like 13 hours to cook this pork roast.
Right.
I know when they filmed there, they said it was only 9, but they reshot that. We really had 13 hours to cook this pork crown roast, which took me about 2.5 hours. So, I was wondering if I was leaving something out or if I was forgetting something, because typically, when we cook bone-in pork chops at home, it's, we serve them medium rare.
Right.
And the worst thing you can do is overcook them because they dry out so fast. And, I was pretty comfortable with the whole pork crown roast. And, at the end of the day, I don't think the TV did the plate justice. It was a beautiful plate. And I couldn't have turned in anything any better. So, really, you just hope you turn in the best that you can turn in, and you just hope that the judges agree with you. And that's pretty much in a real barbecue competition. It's the same thing.
Melissa Cookston of Yazoo's Altitude joining us here, kind of reliving some of the Barbecue Pitmasters Season 2 moments. So you win that preliminary round, you're automatically ushered into the finals. Now, if my memory is serving me correctly, it was you and Johnny Trigg, and it was Shad Curtin, who we had on in the first hour. It was also Firehouse Barbecue and Mo Cason rounding out the top 5 there. You're up against brick pits there initially. I don't know how they shoot all the editing thing. The TV fascinates me to no end, from what the raw footage is to what they end up showing people on the television as a finished product, and how that holds true or if it doesn't hold true. But nevertheless, they announce it's going to be whole hog as the main category. I have to imagine to some degree, at least there's an air of, hey, we've done this once or twice.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The first thought that goes through my head is sweet, I'm very familiar with this. The whole hog is what we do. The second thought that goes through your head is, oh, crap, this is TV. Why would they give us whole hog? Yeah.
Did you think
it was definitely 10 or 15 seconds later, though? It was elation for the first 10 or 15 seconds.
Did you think, or at what point did you think of, is there going to be another Pitfire challenge, and could I potentially be eliminated from this whole thing before I actually get to serve the hog?
Yeah, going in, we knew, or we thought we knew. We knew we'd have at least 2 challenges before the hog. There were 5 competitors, so, I thought initially they're going to throw one of us off on the pit fire, and then they'll give us another challenge and throw another one, I knew going in there'd be a pit fire challenge, and, of course, it was chicken.
Are you comfortable with chicken?
No.
No?
No.
Well, now, hold on a second.
I turned in my first piece of chicken in a box to be judged last year.
Hold on one second here. What, and out of the many competition barbecue people that I've talked to, it seems that chicken always seems to be an Achilles heel to the majority of teams. What is it about chicken that seems to be so unforgiving or so non-consistent for a lot of teams?
Well, I can tell you what really screwed me up was the first Kansas City contest we entered. There were 70-something teams there, and we had no idea what we were doing. And we had talked to some people, and we know how to cook, but, these are foreign meats to us. And we won chicken. Well, shit, you go around the country trying to reproduce that same damn chicken you won with, and, to no avail. And so we finally have just learned in the last couple contests, just scratch the first chicken, forget it, it was a fluke. We had judges on crack. They didn't know what they were talking about. And start over with chicken. But that's what screwed me up. So
you see Pitfire Challenge being chicken, and you're not feeling as comfortable or nearly as comfortable as you were with the whole hog announcement.
No, I just thought, oh, shit, I didn't say it.
Right. Good.
Yeah,
best not to be swearing twice on television.
These are Kansas City guys we're going up against. So they're very familiar with chicken.
And you decided to fry chicken, and you also did smoker chicken as well, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that I learned in the preliminary round. The more stuff you can get on that plate that tastes good, the better off you are.
And you're certainly no stranger to fried chicken.
Oh, no. We actually did a Mississippi caviar, which is a black-eyed pea relish type thing, and some hoe cakes, and we fried chicken and smoked chicken.
Hoe cakes?
Yeah, don't you like hoe cakes? It just sounds good when a Southern girl says hoe cakes.
Yeah, many different things are running through my mind right now. But what for the people that don't know, what's a hoe cake?
Well, basically, it's just a little flat piece. It's like a pancake, but we put some garlic and some chives in there, and it's very well seasoned. But it's kind of like just a little pancake thing. But it tastes really good. It originated from field hands taking the ingredients to make hoe cakes out in the field while they were working. And for their lunchtime meal, they would stop and they would make these little cakes on the blade of their hoe. So that's where the term originated. And, they're just a fun little thing that you can plop a piece of chicken on. It just makes it taste better.
So when you're finished getting the pieces of chicken that you want to turn in, you submit the plate in to the 3 judges. Were you fairly confident that you had something that would at least pass you on to the next round, keep continuing to cook the hog?
Well, I was hearing comments from the judges. When the judges were deliberating themselves, they didn't let us hear that. But I could hear what they were saying to the different competitors. And at that point, everything that they said was pretty positive to everybody. So, in my mind, I'm thinking, just let me get through this chicken, please. Let me show this hog. So, no, I didn't know. I had no idea. I was just praying at that point.
Now they eliminate 2 of the contestants from chicken. Mo Cason is told to pound salt, and also Firehouse Barbecue. Were you surprised to see either one of those guys get taken out, or is this just something at this point where you're just chalking up to this is the way it's going to fall and you can't really take time to worry about who could potentially be going on whatever type of challenge there is?
Well, the other thing that's not really taken into account is, everybody's food is done at the same time, but not everybody's food gets judged at the same time. So, some people's food are sitting in warmers for a long time, depending on how long it takes to judge the teams that are drawn ahead of you to go for judging. So, depending on, how well you did your chicken, it could be sitting in that warmer either finishing up because you didn't get it done, or it could be killing it.
Right.
So there are all kinds of things to take into consideration. Plus, you hear some of the other teams talking about the team next to them, and, Firehouse is over there. What the hell are you doing frying chicken, and, so you hear all kinds of smack talk going on about who did what and this, that, and the other. So really, we were just kind of chilling out, just waiting to either get axed or, to show our hog, and worrying about it really didn't do any good. So we were just sitting waiting, and it didn't take too long. The judges were fairly quick coming back on that one to see who went home. So
I was going to say, for us seeing it, it looks like it takes 4 or 5 minutes tops between each and every team. What was the average time in between judging submissions?
Well, it depended every time. Kevin had to do several retakes, with his lines, and then after the judges would actually get to the table, that part went fairly quickly. So, just depending on what was happening at the time, it could be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes.
You're kidding.
No.
Yeah, that would kill a chicken, all right.
Yeah, or on the flip side, if your chicken wasn't done.
Yeah. Holy moly. Yeah, that seems to be an exceptionally long time. All right, so you make it through chicken, and you can continue to cook the whole hog. What's your experience with the, old school brick style pit? You have any experience cooking on those, throwing coals?
No, I've never cooked on anything like that. I mean, I've seen people do it. But, I really wasn't concerned about it because we learned to cook on barrel grills, and if you can control those things, you can control just about anything. So I really wasn't concerned too much about the pit. The pit, I'm going to tell you, it was built well. It maintained heat well. I just pulled my thermometers out of my cookers and stuck them in the hog, and, we really didn't have any trouble cooking on it.
Now, are you running multiple thermometers throughout the hog so you can see where your temperatures are at all the time, or are you a feel person at this point? Where are you at with those? I'm
always a thermometer girl. I'll have one in the hams, one in the shoulders, probably front and back. My poor little hog looks like a Martian. He's got so many probes coming out and wires running everywhere. I really didn't get into feel mode. We only had 10 and a half hours to cook this hog, so I've never cooked a hog in 10 and a half hours. I've never wanted to. But, there was some feel going on, but I was really relying. I didn't want to open that top on that cooker because, letting all that heat out, it takes a while to get the heat back. So I was really, really relying on thermometers up until about the last hour when I started feeling.
And is this the same way, more or less, obviously you're using different cookers, but this is the same process that you would use at a competition?
Yes, sir. Exactly the same.
So when it's time to start judging and your hog is ready, were you happy with the way it looked coming off? Did you know that there were going to be some deficiencies somewhere around that hog?
When we pulled the top off that hog, I guess we had about an hour before we had to get the hog out of the pit, get it up on the prep table, garnish it. I was the thing you don't want to happen is you don't want to blow your loin up, but you want your hands nice and tender. So the first thing I went for was the ham, and I am totally a fingertip feel for texture, and I felt that ham, and it gave just the right amount, and so I knew the hams were tender. So I held the ribs up to check on the loin, and it's laying in there nice and perfect. I mean, I would be happy to turn that hog in this weekend.
So did the weight and the judging hurt your score, do you think?
I'm sorry, did the what?
Did you have to wait in the judging, and did that potentially hurt your temperatures or anything? No.
When we got through judging, we brought the hog back to the prep table. And, of course, the presentation side had not been touched. So I told Pete, I said, this is where I pull from. Reach in and pull and tell me the sample that you get. So he pulls it out, the exact same samples that I did, because I knew, the samples that I'd given the judges I knew. I could feel, I could see, just like I would at competition. And he pulled the same samples out even then, and, we tasted and felt, and the hog was perfect.
Now, I think what's interesting, as people watched on the television, you had a number of the guys cutting out their hog portions that were requested by the judges, but you got in there with both hands and you were pulling out the various portions of the hog. And I heard Myron say, that's how you're supposed to do it. Is that something that you were taught when you got into the competition thing, or is this something that this is what you have to do in order to show that you have a perfect hog?
Yeah, I mean, I've never had to carve a ham or a shoulder off a hog. If you dry the ham out too much, I can see how you would carve it. Or if it's not tender, I can see how you would carve it. But for competition, it's all about reaching in and getting the samples. It's not like Thanksgiving where you carve the ham. And, I think it showed on TV. I didn't really get to see the final episode very much. I was talking to some friends of mine. But you don't ever put a knife on a hog. The only time I would ever put a knife on a hog is to slice a loin to say, hey, I can do this. Because if you can maintain that loin enough that you can take a knife and slice nice thin medallions, then you've properly cooked that hog. So I don't even think I would know really where to start carving on a hog. I mean, everything is about pulling with us.
And it seems like it went over very well.
Yeah, well, I don't know any other way. I was very excited when I saw the other two bring out the knives and start carving the hog.
Well, I mean, visually, when I was looking at it, I see, the first two guys were carving up, and then you were just kind of sitting in there with your hand, almost like a surgeon going to work, where you couldn't see, any of the hands, and then you were just pulling out all these great-looking pieces of pork. And then, of course, as I said, you heard Myron say, well, that's how you're supposed to do it. And it was definitely visually a lot more entertaining for a plating purpose than it would be seeing some guys with knives carve the hog up.
Yeah. And it's a great feeling, too. When you've got this huge piece of meat, like a whole hog in front of you, and you can reach down under that ham or in the middle of that ham and pull out those perfect pieces, that's a good feeling. I guess that's the Tarzan in us about cooking the whole cut of meat, is, reaching in there and getting those pieces that are good. And, it's very satisfying to be able to do that.
So you and Shad end up hooking up there for who's going to win this whole thing. And, of course, we don't need to draw anything out. He ultimately gets chosen to win the whole hog category and then the $100,000 and the 850-foot trophy from Kingsford. Were you bitterly disappointed? Did you consider Shad a formidable barbecue opponent, and you just kind of tip your hat and that's it? Or, what were the thoughts going through your head when he was announced?
Yeah, well, I already knew before he was announced. When Myron said, when he made the comment of this is what we were looking for and it's all going to come down to flavor, I knew then. It didn't matter how perfect my hog was. I knew. I don't know why I knew. I just already knew. In my heart of hearts, I knew we've lost this. And, so it was not a surprise for me for them to call his name. You really hate to think it came down to a sauce contest. I don't know. But I already knew. And I guess that's why I held my composure so well. Because, when he looked at us and he said, this is all going to come down to flavor, I knew my hog was perfect. It was perfectly cooked. And, so it was not a big surprise when they called his name to me anyway.
Would you think that in any other competition that the results would have went your way if you were at a sanctioned MBN event?
I think if it had been blind judging, that the results might have been differently.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, having taken part in the show, and what were some of the things that you would have liked to see changed? I was going to say, would you have liked to have seen some type of blind judging where they at least, went in the back somewhere and said, okay, here's example A, and you were at least able to watch their faces and how they were judging through some type of closed-circuit television or something like that. But to see the fact that here's the guy that's giving me what I'm eating, and you can see, and there's the faces associated there. A lot of people were talking that Johnny Trigg was getting a lot of extra verbal buildup for the fact of what he has done in the past and who he is versus what his meat was tasting like at any given point in the day. Judging or blind judging in your mind would have been absolutely a better way to go.
Oh yeah, definitely. I saw both the other hogs. I thought Johnny did an excellent job cooking his hog. I knew he was going to have some opportunities. I saw Shad's hog, and I knew he'd blown his loin up. At an NBN competition, certified judges that judge whole hog would have recognized that. And I don't think it would have mattered what sauce you had on it. I think, it has, first and foremost, it had to be cooked perfect. So, but it is what it is. I mean, that's the way it is with every competition we go to. It's like I said before, you cook the absolute best that you can cook, and you hope that the judges that show up to judge you like what you cook. And it all comes down to who that panel of judges is that, is judging your meat.
So speaking of who these judges are, as we look at the judging panel, you have Myron Mixon, you have Warren Sapp, you have Art Smith. Going from right to left on our television screen, what did you know, if you knew anything about Art Smith, and what did you think of him as a judge?
Yeah, basically, I think anybody that went on the show probably did a little research. I know I did, and I knew that Art Smith was a chef of first class. So I think that may have been a little bit of, why we opted to do some things like the watermelon salsa and the Mississippi caviar, to try to give him a little variety and show a little depth as to what we can do. That's why we turned in 2 pieces of chicken. We can smoke this stuff all day long and it'll be perfect. But you know what? We can fry it on charcoal too, which is kind of hard, by the way. Warren Sapp, I guess he's just your everyday average Joe with money that loves to eat, And then, of course, there's Myron. And, Myron is a barbecue cook. I don't know how much experience he's had with judging. I know he's never judged my food before Barbecue Pitmasters. But you also have to take into consideration, Myron likes his own barbecue or he wouldn't turn it in. But by the way, Myron has not beat us in a year and a half.
Right.
I mean, we have pretty much been kicking his butt all over the country, including in his own backyard. So, you just hope that at the end of the day, what you do is recognized for what it is. And if not, it's not. And, it's the same way at barbecue competitions.
Do you think he gave you a fair shake, or was he trying to stick it back to you for kicking his ass for the last year and a half?
I think I better not answer that.
I was asking in jest, of course, for anybody that's out there writing emails as we speak.
Oh, great. That was rhetorical.
Right.
Good.
Now, when Myron is commenting on food, when he's giving you feedback, is it something that it's easier to take his feedback versus an Art Smith or a Warren Sapp because he's out there doing it as you guys have done, or is it a little bit more, look, why don't you go ahead and climb over this table and come cook with us, and we'll see who gets the better scores?
He was probably he usually gave feedback first, irregardless of what the TV shows. Art did sometimes, but most of the time it was Myron. And, everything that I expected, everything that he would comment about my food to be negative. And he did say some very complimentary things, which surprised me. So, I think the shock value of him saying anything nice probably negated anything that he could have said negative. So, I don't know. we knew that he was going to be a judge going out there. You just hope that going and being on Barbecue Pitmasters, the exposure brings you some opportunity down the road. At the end of the day, I was very happy with the products that we put on the plate. It was very stressful, not knowing, what you were going to be cooking, and having curveballs thrown at you, and having to do interviews, when you got 20 minutes or whatever before plating, and all you can ask for is to be happy with the food that you present to the judges, and I was. I wouldn't do anything over. Of course, when you lose, that's a long ride home from Los Angeles to Mississippi, I'm gonna tell you. And the what ifs, what if are going through, and we discussed it all the way home, and but even today, there's not a single thing that I would change or do over. It was an experience, and it was a lot of fun, and the producers were so nice, and we had a lot of fun, and really that's all you can say.
Something that you would definitely do again in a heartbeat if given the opportunity, or would you like to see the show morph into kind of an amalgamation of both season 1 and 2?
I want to be a judge. I want to be a judge with Myron, because I think it would be very, very entertaining if you put me and Myron on the same panel.
Would it be better to have 3 qualified barbecue judges up there giving feedback versus the kind of a celebrity type panel, if you will?
Well, there again, though, it depends on who those 3 judges are. If they're all Kansas City judges, then they're probably not going to be leaning my way. And you had some teams on there that, it wasn't all just strictly Kansas City teams. Sure, the bulk of them were Kansas City teams, but I know there was another kid on there. Well, I say a kid. That's just because I'm old, though. Another Memphis team on there, and they're a relatively young, new cooking team. And, they don't do a lot of Kansas City. So, if you take, a great, maybe if you have 3 judges or 5 judges or whatever, and you mix it up some, and give us a Memphis judge and a Kansas City judge and maybe a judge from another barbecue society, where I think that'd be great.
Melissa Cookston of Yazoo's Delta Q joining me here on the Barbecue Central show. Melissa, go ahead and give us the website one more time for people who want to pick up Big Girl Panty T-shirts and also any other barbecue rubs and sauces.
Yeah, it's Yazoo's Delta Q, and that's just the letter Q.com. And also, we have a cooking school. I think I have 4 spots left. It's November 13th and 14th.
13th and 14th, so go ahead and write that down on your calendars. Ladies, if you want to get your husbands a great gift, that would definitely be something you'd want to look at. Also, men, for the women that like to barbecue. Do you get more men than women for these classes, or are you starting to see it even out a little bit?
I've had 0 women. I do have a woman coming from California, and I'm so excited. I'm ecstatic that I have a woman coming to my cooking class.
It's really been all men?
Everyone.
Wow. All right. Well,
we actually had a couple come take a private class once, but as far as our barbecue school, it's been all men.
So women, get out there. You have it in Mississippi?
We do have it in Mississippi. It's just below Memphis, so it's very easy airport to get in and out of or drive.
All right, women, get on board.
I don't care how you get here, just get here.
1 woman and 3 of her friends get down there and fill that class up for Melissa. That would be awesome to have 4 women out there with all the men. I'm sure that wouldn't be intimidating at all, right? And again, this is Melissa Cookston. Melissa, I appreciate you coming on tonight and talking about pretty much everything that has to do with Yazoo's Delta Q beginning and talking about the competitions. And, of course, good luck this coming weekend in Covington, Tennessee. We hope you bring one back.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say good smoking luck.
Oh, wait. What's the worst? Which one is the worst?
Good smoking luck.
That's the worst tagline. Seacrest out is not worse than good smoking luck.
I don't ever hear Seacrest out.
I know, because it was so bad they told them to stop saying it.
I've heard good smoking luck 1,010,000 times.
And that's the worst one by far.
By far.
All right, there you've heard it right from Melissa Cookston's mouth. Good smoking luck is the worst tagline ever, so I'll be sure not to adopt that here into the show. So, again, Melissa, I appreciate the time tonight. Continued success.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks for the karma.
You got it. Take care. There she is.
Bye-bye.
Melissa Cookston. She knows, man. Thanks for the karma. Damn right. People know. People that are in the know are in the know. All right, we're going to wrap this bad boy up. Another great After Dark segment, if I do say so myself. Thanks to the first hour guest, Shad Curtin of A Boy and His Barbecue. Also, Robin Medlin, Grill Girl. GRILLGRRRL. Did I spell that right? Yeah, Grill Girl. 3 R's in the grill part. No, in the girl. Damn it. Come on, Robin. Tell that Canadian to give back your name. Anyway, grillgirl.com is the website. Also, Melissa Cookston, Yazoo's Delta Q. Big Girl Panty T-shirts, rubs and sauces for sale. Also 4 spots in her cooking class November 13th and 14th. So get on board with that. It'll sell out quickly, I'm sure. Next week, how about a little Jack Daniels talk? How about a little American Royal winner interview? You got it. I got it locked and loaded already. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of that. You take care of tuning in next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, it's your program host, the proud U.S. American Greg Rempe. Good night now.